All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to season 2 of the Legends Comicast, starring probably the smartest and funniest people on the entire internet. I know that you guys are excited. I'm excited. Let's see how excited the rest of the cast is. I am your host, Nick Isolde, comic book. Well, let's just call it savant. With me, as always, is the gorgeous, feminine, lovely, talented, beautiful Jordan Seth Roach,
How's it going, guys?
the quick-witted Garrett Gilmore,
What's up?
and Turbo Chick herself, and faithful, always last introduced, Rachel Freeman.
How's it going, guys?
We have a star-studded cast for you guys today. We have tons of guests. They were the people that I just listed a second ago. We don't have any actual guests because most of the time people don't respond to my Twitter or email messages. I'm just guessing it's probably because they're intimidated of our prowess. There's probably no other reason for it other than that. I can't figure out why they wouldn't email me back. We're lovely. So we have a couple different topics for you guys today. We're going to go ahead. We're going to review Gotham. We're going to talk about the fall TV lineup into the winter TV lineup that's coming up. We got some television and film news. We got some general comic book news. We're going to take a look at some of the stuff that's been going on in the Marvel and DC universe, as well as we're going to cover a couple of our recommendations and picks for comic books that are coming out recently that we think you guys should be checking out. So if you are tuning in, you lucked out, my friend, because today is the day.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 begins right now, sponsored by Bud Light. Okay, it's not actually sponsored by Bud Light. So I guess I'll go ahead. I'll pass the ball over here to Mr. Jordan Seth Roach, who's going to start our fall TV preview. So I'll let him do it.
Yeah, so it is the fall officially, and with fall means a ton of TV shows, so many that you have to DVR half of it. So there's a few big comic book shows, actually more comic book shows on now, or about to be on than I think there probably has ever been on TV at one time. So let's start off with the one that's probably freshest in everybody's mind. Gotham premiered this past week to very, very mixed reviews. And how do you guys feel about it? Let's start with Garrick. How do you feel about Gotham?
I was not excited for Gotham, and after watching Gotham, I can say that I was not excited for the next episode. Basically, everything that I thought was going to go wrong went wrong. Catwoman really didn't have any reason to be in that episode, and the scene where Bruce's parents are killed was the most cringeworthy thing that I've ever watched on TV ever, if I can say that.
Ever?
It was just awful. I was comparing it to the Batman Begins scene where there was just so much emotion, and just the cinematics of that scene were so well done, and this just pales so far in comparison that basically it started off with a sour taste in my mouth, and I really couldn't get into it after that scene.
Describe the taste for us.
Mm-hmm.
It was like
Old mayonnaise in the sun.
Yeah. I've never had that, but probably. The one redeeming, well, there are a few redeeming qualities I found in the show. I really liked the set design and the art direction of the sets. I thought they had a real good comic book feel, as well as Harvey Bullock. I thought he was spot on in there, but he's been in a lot of TV shows. SVU, I think, is the most recent thing he's been in.
Yes, he was the commissioner. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
he was the captain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for a short stint there after Kragan retired. Spoiler alert. That was like 2 years ago. So so if you missed it, I'm sorry. But
damn it! I
did
just
really
worked
well.
my way up to that on the DVR, and now I got nothing left.
Well, now you know. Also, I thought Jim Gordon was going to be a lot worse than he was. Just from seeing the trailers and just seeing the set photos and things, it just didn't have a Jim Gordon feel to me, but I think he did well. I still don't think, like, he had the redeeming qualities that Jim Gordon has. Like he wasn't dirty. He wouldn't kill certain people that he was forced into bad situations. I won't spoil it for anybody, but he was basically Jim Gordon, except for the look. And it still kind of bothers me, but I guess I'll just have to get over it. Maybe he'll grow on me more. Mm-hmm. Anything else I liked? Not really. No. Catwoman was dumb. Poison Ivy's not named Pamela Isley, which is dumb. The Riddler being 10 or 15 years older than Batman is dumb. And the Penguin is dumb. So those are my thoughts.
Beautiful, beautiful. So Rachel, I know you just watched it today, so do you feel the same way?
I pretty much feel the same way. I do remember, like, whenever they first announced Gotham, I was like, that sounds like such a cool idea. This is going to be so good. And then, you know, I kind of got to a point where Garrick was, where, like, the more they announced, the less kind of excited I got. And then when I actually watched it, it was exactly what I expected it to be. It was 2 minutes in, and I was just like, I don't even know if I want to keep watching this anymore. Like, I don't understand why half of the stuff happening was happening. I agree with Garrick. The actor playing Jim Gordon did a good job, like, acting like Jim Gordon. The parents' death scene, which, you know, is the most important scene in, is supposed to be, like, you know, the most important moment in Bruce's life, because that's when everything changes. And it was just, like, cliche, and I don't know.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Hey, give me that money.
Was not good. He had a mask on, and he wasn't a good actor. Like, he was not convincing me.
Hey, give me that money.
Give me that money. Bang, bang. I don't know why I killed you. Bye.
Yeah.
That was basically it.
Yeah.
No emotion.
I don't know if that woman had to be there for that.
Yeah, she was everywhere.
Yeah, and it's like what Garrick said. I don't like that all of these villains are just seeming kind of dumb and not right. Like, I don't know why the Penguin is tall.
It's hard to tell.
It's just, yeah. I'm gonna watch the next episode, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm already kind of losing hope for it.
Here's the thing. I don't have a problem changing, like, iconic villains in, you know, TV or cinema, like they're doing with Arrow. All the, like, Deathstroke, they've changed a lot of things. And even if you just go to the Dark Knight trilogy, you know, the Joker just wore makeup and had scars on his face. That's not, like, straight out of the comic books. And Bane with that respirator mask, you know.
Yeah, but there's certain things you can
anywhere, but yeah, like, those were a cool interpretation and, like, a neat change up. These are just, like, I guess this might have happened, like, 1 in a million chance that Jim Gordon runs into every major Batman villain on his first day on the job. So,
yeah. And the whole, like you pointed out, like, Poison Ivy's name isn't even Pamela. Like, why would you change their name?
Well, the reason they said that, you know, they changed it to Ivy Pepper or whatever, is because they said people won't recognize Pamela Isley as Poison Ivy because they wanted it to be like a big, oh man, I know that character, like, for all the people that don't read comics. And I feel like having the same girl, you know, red hair and plants is a pretty dead giveaway. So yeah. I don't know why they needed to change the name. It's like, it's the same thing that was in the Dark Knight Rises.
That's like if they had, like, Bruce Wayne playing with bats because they were worried no one was going to know he was Batman.
Yeah, like,
there's just so when I started watching this, the number one thing that resonated with me, that what Garrett said, was the first 5 minutes of the episode really set the tone for the entire thing. Like, the death scene was, like, so cold and emotionless that it made no sense. It was like a horrible B-movie death scene, and it's supposed to be a really super traumatic, dark, like, it was broad daylight when he shot him, which there's no iteration of the Batman universe where his parents get shot in broad daylight. It's always dark in an alley after, you know, night at the
Get them.
movies or a night at the opera or a night, somewhere. It just seems weird. And then, like you said, the guy who shot him was just like, all right, see you guys later. But the whole thing to me, the whole episode seemed like an episode of Law and Order that was just really poorly acted on every front. And I'll give the show the benefit of the doubt because it's pilot, and I'm sure it doesn't have a whole lot of artistic direction, and it's pretty common for different directors and people who write different scripts to put together certain episodes that really like take the show in a creative way. But hopefully the people that wrote this one and directed this one aren't around for too long, because that was kind of garbage. It's decent fan service for people who know about Batman, but it's not very loyal in the sense of like honestly, it didn't even seem like a very good TV show. If it didn't have if there wasn't a connection to the Batman universe, this could have been called like generic shitty cop show number 5, and nothing would have changed about it. It wasn't good. So I think we're all collectively agreeing that we don't like the Gotham show so far, but at least it's given itself tons of room to improve. And I'm pretty sure we said the same things about Arrow, and now we're all kind of on board. So hopefully they take a cue from that.
I will say too, real quick. First of all, that I understand they were trying to be dramatic, but that ear-piercing scream that child let out, it's a bit much. I'm digging Alfred
scream
though.
Like a girl.
I was pretty okay with Alfred.
Oh no, Rachel, please. Okay.
He was so Cockney and English.
We can't
reminded
keep
me.
talking about Gotham.
Listen, I just have to bring up this one thing.
All right.
Rachel, you may have liked Alfred. I thought he was just the worst. Okay, so Bruce is up on the roof, and he's like, Bruce, get your ass down here. What are you doing? And I'm just like, Alfred would never yell at Bruce like that ever, or swear at Bruce when he's a child. That's not
fair.
Alfred. That would never happen.
He'd be like, get down here, Master Bruce, unless you don't feel like it, in which case I'll go do whatever you want me to do. Up, pip, pip, cheerio.
I was just caught up in
Exactly.
I just like he was so Cockney sounding.
Oh man,
That's adorable.
so Gotham sucks.
So now that
Gotham sucks, everybody.
now that we're on to the rest of the fall TV series, we have tons and tons of different shows that are about to start. The market is becoming super saturated with comic book properties because I think the rest of the world is finally starting to wake up and realize that comics are sweet, and you should read them or at least watch TV shows about them. And I think a lot of that has to do with the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Batman Dark Knight trilogy and all that crap. But you got all these TV shows coming out. Arrow's coming back. You got The Flash also going to be on CW. You have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s already back. Gotham has already started. Constantine's coming next month. Supergirl was just ordered to pilot. You got Daredevil and Jessica Jones are going to be done within the next year, and those are going to be on Netflix. And also The Walking Dead, which is the biggest television show week after week on network television. So of these shows that are out, let's just kind of go right around the room and say which one you're most interested for and why. Let's start with Jordan.
I guess I'm probably, to be honest, well, I'll say 2. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. first, because I'm heavily invested in it, because I think I'm the only one in the cast that watched the entire first season. And it started off really slow, and everybody was like, oh, this sucks so bad, and it ended up really, really good in the second half of the season. In this first episode, I don't think anybody else watched it, but it had the Absorbing Man in it. It seemed much faster paced. Coulson's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. now. Everything was really good, and I enjoyed that first episode, so it's a strong start to this second season. And then I'm really excited for everything Netflix, Marvel, everything that they're doing. So Daredevil and Jessica Jones both coming. I'm not really invested in Jessica Jones that much, but I'll still watch it. But I think Daredevil is going to be fantastic when it does come, which I guess probably isn't going to be until next year.
Jessica Jones is going to be a cool show because I know that a lot of you guys are, I won't say like new to comics or anything like that, because you're not, but maybe Jessica Jones isn't the comic book character that you guys have followed in the past, but a couple buddies of mine who are much more seasoned readers of comics than I am recommended a series to me called Alias that came out under the Marvel Knights banner back in early 2000s. It's written by Brian Michael Bendis. It is graphic, to say the least, and it's all about Jessica Jones. If you get a chance to, if you can find the trade paperbacks or anything like that, give it a read, and assuming that you're an adult, because if you're a kid, you probably shouldn't read that comic book. It's got some not safe for work content in there, let's put it that way. But it'll give you a little bit of a backstory around Jessica Jones, and we can talk about her, a little bit later when more is announced. But yeah, it's a good series. All right, next. Sorry for derailing. Next person I want to hear from, the lovely, gorgeous, talented Rachel Freeman.
Oh man, you actually complimented me before falling on my
Yep.
I was really not expecting
I thought
that.
it was going to be me for sure.
Yeah,
I really did too, Eric.
that's where the fake out was.
I am excited. I'll do what Jordan did, and I'll say two things. I am also excited about Jessica Jones. I don't know a whole lot about her. As Nick said, she wasn't as popular or at least introduced to me until I was a little older, and I didn't really know a whole lot about her. I still don't know a whole lot about her, other than things I've heard here and there. I would like to read it. So I am excited that that's a show, just because I think it's cool that, from what I've heard, she's a badass, and she's not this hugely popular character right now, and I think that's cool that that's what they're going for. So I'm definitely going to give that show a shot, and I am looking forward to it. And I am interested to see how this Supergirl show goes. I am not the biggest Supergirl fan. Again, I know here and there about her. I haven't read her consistently like I do Batgirl or anything like that. I don't like that they announced that her backstory is going to be different. I think that's kind of dumb, and hopefully they don't change it too much. I also think it's weird that they keep kind of pushing Wonder Woman to the back burner, and I don't really know why, because you'd think that she's the one that they would be going for all this stuff, but anyway, that's besides the point. That's my laundry.
Awesome.
So everybody knows that my clothes are dry. Yeah, I'm excited to see Supergirl. It's a show that I would definitely give a chance to.
All right, Mr. Garrick, we're going to go ahead and skip you and go to me. Yes! Classic fake out. Classic fake out. I am most excited for Constantine. I don't know why, but for some reason, I feel like, I've watched Arrow. I've already seen the pilot of Flash. It's pretty cool. I've seen about 10 episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know what's going on there. I already hate Gotham. I know what's going on in The Walking Dead. All of these shows, have their own different kind of something going on. But I personally have never really followed Constantine. I've seen the old movie that Keanu Reeves was in. A lot of people hated it. I thought it was all right. I mean, it wasn't a great film, but I mean, it definitely didn't remind me of the Constantine I know in the comic books. But I'm most excited for Constantine, I think, because it's a different type of show. It deals with paranormal stuff. It deals with, a little bit of insanity and craziness and some different kind of themes that you're not really... You're not going to see that kind of shit in Arrow. You're not going to see, an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where they just fight like a vampire ghost. Like, you're just not going to see that. So I'm kind of really excited to see where they go with Constantine. Unfortunately, I think that it's probably going to be the least popular of these ones, because I just have a feeling that audiences are stupid and aren't really going to get it. And that's not to say that any of you people out there are dumb, but the people that are probably dumb. So they're probably not going to like it. And then the other thing is I'm super hyped for this Daredevil on Netflix series. Like Daredevil is the show that I'm gonna binge watch the shit out of that. I will take off work and find out a way to watch all 13 episodes of that show as soon as it comes on. I'm a huge Daredevil fan. I like Frank Miller's work. I like the latest Mark Waid work. I even like the crappy stuff that came out in the middle of the 90s where he had that like weird black and gray and red costume. It was pretty neat. I think it was all right. But the last Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck was terrible. I mean, it was okay when I was a kid or when I was in like a senior or junior in high school or whenever it came out, but it's just not a good representation of the character. And Ben Affleck has even admitted, he's like, that was terrible and I should have never done it, and I apologize to you and I'll make it up to you with cash. He's actually sent me money in the mail because of it. But I'm really excited for Daredevil. I'm excited. I think that his story, the kind of things that take place in his life, are a lot more episodic in nature than say a Guardians of the Galaxy or a Superman story. I think it's much more drawn out in the long haul. Him finding a target like the Kingpin or something like that, and then taking him down over a series of episodes. Same thing with like the Punisher. I feel like the Punisher would be a great story to deal with in an episodic format. So those are what I'm excited for. And last but not least, Garrett Gilmore.
All right. Nobody said this. I don't know why, but I'm super excited for Arrow and The Flash, because Arrow has already proven itself as the greatest comic book TV show on TV right now. And
Agreed.
I feel like Arrow's success is leading to all these other shows coming on. Daredevil, Supergirl, Gotham, The Flash. None of this would be happening if Arrow wasn't awesome. So I can't not be on the hype train for that. And in the same vein, Flash is already doing crossovers. I know they're already doing 2 or 3 episodes where the two shows mingle. So I can only be excited for both of those.
The title of those episodes is called The Brave and the Bold. So that's also pretty cool.
Yeah, so super excited for both of those shows. For Arrow to return off a great second season, and for The Flash to make its premiere. All the things that I've been seeing about The Flash look promising. I know we were ragging on the outfit when we first saw it, but I think I've grown to like it the more I see it. So I'm optimistic about that. Also, Constantine, like Nick said, I'm super excited for.
I'm just excited to see heroes with powers on TV, like running real fast or like using magic and shit. Like not just like aiming a bow and shooting somebody in the neck with it from like 200 yards away.
Yeah.
Because it's not impulsive.
I mean, it's... Oh, and they also announced Arrow's gonna have some cool like trick arrows this season, so we might see a boxing glove knock somebody out.
Boxing glove arrow.
Which
Sleeping
probably
dart.
won't happen, but
We can
get
hope.
excited for it.
We can hope.
So,
If he doesn't, they'll at least make fun of it. They'll be like, "What do you want me to do? Put a boxing arrow?" I don't know.
hopefully.
So-
Or he'll be trying it out in the Arrow Cave or whatever they call it. Diggle will be like, "What the hell are you
Let's
doing?"
call it
He'll
the
be like,
Felicity Smoke Station.
Oh,
I call
Is
it the Haymaker. No, but anyway, super excited for those shows.
So that is our fall TV preview. Tons of good stuff happening in the world of comic book nerdery and syndicated television. So if you're into comic books, you're probably listening to this, so I don't know why the hell I said that. But go ahead and check those shows out. We're going to be talking about them all winter long, what we like. I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about what we don't like because we're assholes. So we apologize in advance for that, I guess? Maybe?
Nah.
No, we don't. Sorry. You're right, Rachel. We don't. Next, we're going to move on to, we kind of work our way into comics. We start light with the TV, we move to movies, then we go directly into the heavy hitters, which is comic books. But we're going to talk a little bit about some film news. First topic for film. Probably the biggest topic related to comic book film in the past couple weeks here since we've last spoken to you. Deadpool. Mr. Wade Wilson, the character created in New Mutants '98 by Rob Liefeld, is now coming to the feature films. He was most notably portrayed by Mr. Ryan Reynolds in a film that I will not necessarily say the name of, because if I admit that it exists, then it becomes a thing, and I just can't deal with that. But he was in a film where he played Wade Wilson, not necessarily Deadpool, but a couple months ago at Comic-Con, a leaked test reel came out of footage that was computer animated, and it had Deadpool in it. And it got so much positive review that Fox, being the money-grubbing whores that they are, said, yeah, we're definitely making that film, so now it's a thing. How do you guys feel about this? In no particular order, Garrett Gilmore.
All right. So, yeah, after that film we will not name or talk about, that I'm going to talk about, Wade Wilson was portrayed in a movie as a super cool guy with wit and hilarity in the first, like, half hour. And then he became this piece of crap that nobody wanted or asked for. But Ryan Reynolds did a good job, and I thought he was hilarious when he was, doing the bit in the elevator with Will.i.am, because he was in that movie, and I
love that scene though, where he's like, he goes, do you ever stop talking? No, not when I'm awake. I was like, perfect. That's perfect Deadpool delivery. But there was a member of the Black Eyed Peas on film, and that was a thing. So whatever.
And a cowboy hat, but. When he jumped in the room and was like spinning around, blocking bullets with his katanas, that was super exciting. And then something happened that ruined X-Men in the minds of most people until the First Class came out, and they kind of redeemed it. But I'm excited for this movie. I think they've learned from their mistakes. They know what the people want in a Deadpool movie. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good. It might just be dick and fart jokes the whole time, which I'm not interested in at all. I'm interested in a good story with wit and humor thrown in throughout. A couple fourth wall breaks I wouldn't mind. Basically, I just want a good interpretation of Deadpool. And so I'm optimistic that they'll get it right, but at the same time, there are a lot of things that could go wrong.
Next up on the plate to discuss the Deadpool film, Count Chocula himself, Rachel Friedman.
Thank you.
Where these are coming from.
I was a little. I do remember when everybody was talking about that, that leaked trailer and stuff. I was not impressed, and then they kind of made that announcement that that's not how the movie's going to be, which that was comforting. I basically have the same opinion as Garrick. I loved how Wade Wilson was in the first part of that X-Men movie. Then I don't know what happened, and it got awful. So I'm glad that I don't really know what they're going to do with that. Are they just going to pretend that didn't happen, or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, they retconned that in Days of Future Past, so that never happened.
Yeah. So now it doesn't exist.
Right, because they can just do that. But I really like Ryan Reynolds. I think Ryan Reynolds is perfect to play Deadpool, and I have a lot of hope for him doing a good job. It's just, yeah. Basically, yeah, what Garrick said. I hope it's not too many, poor fart jokes and, like, dumb humor. Like, I hope it's actually funny and witty, and that they pull through on this one.
I'm fairly vocal about how I feel about Deadpool. I'm not a huge fan anymore. When I was a kid, I remember finding the Deadpool action figure and knowing nothing about him and being like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So he's clearly like a character that's drawn to look like a badass, and like everything about Deadpool is cool, except the people that write him as a comic book character. One out of every 10 people that writes a Deadpool comic book writes a character that I care about. So Rick Remender's done a good job in the past, and actually the old Wolverine, who the hell wrote Yeah, not important. When he was in the Wolverine series in the mid '90s, there's a couple issues that he is a mercenary trying to kill somebody that Wolverine's protecting. I'll figure out what those issues are, and I'll tell you later on when I'm not speaking. But he does a really good job of being a smartass, but also being incredibly intimidating. The same thing happens in X-Force. He's very intimidating. He's in the second issue of X-Force that started in the '90s. He's almost kind of scary. Like, you don't want to screw with him because he has those cool powers. He's very volatile, and there's tons of cool aspects about Daredevil that make him an interesting character. Like, for instance, the Taskmaster is one of his biggest villain slash rivals, and the Taskmaster's big claim to fame is that he can imitate anybody's fighting style and use it against him, and he can't do that against Deadpool because he's so unpredictable, and that's because he's a freaking nut job. Even in things like Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, Xavier reads Deadpool's mind, and when he reads what has happened to him and what he's been through, he blacks out and dies. So there's all kinds of really cool things about Deadpool, but again, for every one of those, you have some crappy story like The Wedding of Deadpool, or Deadpool versus Carnage, or Deadpool Killustrated, or something like that, because Marvel shoehorns him into a lot of stuff because he's a popular character. Most people that know Deadpool know of him because he looks kind of cool and he's a fun character to have on a t-shirt that symbolizes that you kind of read comics. Which, again, I'm not a hipster. I'm not going to judge you if you don't read comics, but I will say that, like, there are better Deadpool, like, better aspects of Deadpool than just his, Katy Perry jokes or whatever he happens to throw out. If you get a chance to read it, read the first, like, 10 issues of Uncanny X-Force from, like, 2011 or 10. In there, he's very one of our normal people who's on here, Chris. He uses the term humanized to talk about Deadpool, and Deadpool normally isn't a character that's humanized. But there's a scene in Uncanny X-Force where they ask Deadpool. They basically say they volunteer Deadpool to kill a child, and he's like, "What the hell kind of person do you guys think I am? I'm not doing that," and he quits. And it's just a cool thing to see written into a character that mostly is known for, like, punching sharks and, like, shooting tacos out of bazookas and shit like that. So I'm excited for the film in the sense that I think that it'll be one of those movies that I can just turn my brain off and watch and not have to worry about. But Fox hasn't given me a whole lot of hope in the past with the things that they've been doing, so I can't necessarily say that, like, they're not going to screw it up. So, last but not least, Jordan Sethridge, how do you feel?
About the same as everybody else. I'll keep it short so that we can move on, but my favorite part of that movie, X-Men Origins or whatever it was called, was Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I think we can all agree that he was probably the bright spot in that movie for the, like, 15 minutes that he was actually himself there.
Yeah.
And he's kind of been, Ryan Reynolds has championed this movie from the get, has always said that he expressed an interest in it, and I think as long as it's him and as long as, like you guys are saying, they don't make it a little too corny, I think it'll be fine. I'm excited to see it. I'm glad that it finally got greenlit after, like, 3-4 years of speculation. So I'm excited for it, yeah.
All right, well, cool. So that's the Deadpool movie news. It's happening, like it or not. Next thing on movie news, next biggest thing. There's a couple we could sit here and discuss pictures of, the Batmobile or Wayne Manor or whatever we want to, but I think we're gonna hold off on discussing Batman versus Superman until we have some more concrete, photos or evidence, something that's cool other than just a new picture of the same shit that we've already seen. So I think we're gonna kind of go into just one small, quick bit. 5 minutes discussing Bryan Singer actually being officially back to direct X-Men Apocalypse, the charges for him and what he was being accused of have been dropped by the person that was accusing him of certain illegal activities. And after that, all that stuff went down, he basically said that he was officially going to be doing the X-Men Apocalypse. So after seeing, let's say we look at the X-Men universe as a whole, X-Men 1, 2 are his, X-Men 3, god-awful piece of shit, X-Men Origins Wolverine, the Wolverine, Days of the Future Past, and now this new film. How do we feel about you guys? Sorry, I left out First Class, but how do you guys feel about the movie? Are you guys hopeful? What do you want to see from it? And that's about it. Anybody? I don't care.
I'm excited for it. Days of Future Past was pretty good. It keeps me optimistic. I was really excited after that after credits scene, and I figured out that the next movie was going to have to do with Apocalypse. And I think, yeah, I'm excited. I think he'll do a fine job. I'm interested to see some of these casting choices that they make in the coming weeks and months, I guess. I know they probably have to recast, like, Cyclops and Jean Grey and all of those people. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, but they're basically working with a clean slate now with X-Men since, I think we mentioned it earlier, Days of Future Past kind of erased all of previous X-Men movie history. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes for sure.
I guess I'll go next. I have not seen Days of Future Past yet. I know, I'm behind on some movies, guys. I did see the Wolverine and all of the other X-Men movies that Nick listed that he did. I want to be hopeful just because I did hear that Days of Future Past was pretty good. I heard some negativity, but I did hear, decent stuff about it overall. So that's good, but it seems like one of every 2 movies that they do, like every other movie that he's done has been garbage. So, speaking in that sense, that means this movie should be terrible. But we'll see. Again, I don't know a whole lot about what the movie's going to be about or anything like that. I'm sure I'll end up seeing it. Yeah, I'm sure I'll end up seeing it at some point, but who knows?
I feel good about this movie after seeing the last 2. The only thing that I would like to see different, the same dynamic has basically been going on in every single X-Men movie since the first one. Blah, 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 Magneto's doing something, blah, 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 Mystique. And I'd really like Apocalypse to do something cool, introduce some new villains that we can get invested in instead of the same old Magneto, which he's awesome, absolutely, sure, but he's been the villain in every single movie besides, the 2 Wolverine spin-offs, which don't matter at all. So, yeah, I just want to see some new villain dynamic. I'm tired of seeing the same old stuff.
I think I'm most excited about 2 things. One of them is what Garrick just said, so I'll cover that in a second. But the thing I'm most excited for is there is a lot of talk right now that Bryan Singer plans on recasting the roles of Storm, Jean, and Cyclops, which are 3 key members of the X-Men. I have a feeling that since this movie is supposed to be set in an 80s-esque time period, we're going to see younger versions of these characters, which gives me hope because I've been reading this, the all-new X-Men, and I really like Cyclops as a character, and they never did anything with him in the first 3 X-Men films except have him show up, get murdered by Jean Grey, and then he was done. But I'm very excited that he's coming back. He's the leader of the X-Men, and people don't realize that. They think that Wolverine's the leader, and he's not. Wolverine is kind of like Cyclops' not adversary, but right hand. He's his first lieutenant, and I won't say most loyal person, but he's definitely the person that is second in command to Cyclops. Cyclops leads the X-Men, and then that gives them a great ability. I'd like to see them take on a approach where something breaks, Apocalypse gets a chance to run the whole entire world and take over like an Age of Apocalypse. I think it would be cool if it was 2 movies, like they set it up in one and then the second one was like Age of Apocalypse. And I'm glad that they're not using X-Men 2, X-Men 3, X-Men 4 for titles anymore, because the general public gets kind of burned out when you put labels on things like that. So if you recondition a film by saying X-Men Days of Future Past or X-Men Age of Apocalypse, then it's no longer the 4th or 5th film in that series. Now it's an entirely new entry in that series. X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse. That's not X-Men 4, 5, and 6. They're different movies. And then the second thing is villains. Villains. I'm tired of seeing. The greatest day of my comic book movie going watching life is when I stopped watching Gandalf play Magneto and Michael Fassbender became Magneto, because in the comic books Magneto is jacked and he's always ripping shit apart and being a badass, and Ian McKellen looks like if the wind blew too hard he would disintegrate. So I'm kind of hoping that there's stronger villains. Apocalypse is very physically dangerous. He's big, he's muscular, he can shapeshift, he can shoot energy blasts, he can grow to the size of a building. He has tons and tons of cool properties, but he also has two of the coolest characters in the X-Men universe associated with him. The first is Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister, Nathan Essex, is the hands-down coolest fucking X-Men villain. If you disagree, you're wrong. Mr. Sinister is cool. His voice actor that played him in the animated series was a boss. I don't know what effect they had to that, but if it was available, I would have it put into my throat and I would use it at all times because it's scary as shit. Mr. Sinister is an awesome character. He's basically in charge for genetically tampering with any mutant that Apocalypse deems worthy into becoming a horseman, and then he turns them into like basically the most badass version of themselves. Second thing I'm most excited for is the actual four horsemen of the Apocalypse, most notably whoever they pick to be the Horseman Death, because the person who plays Death as the Horseman of the Apocalypse is always a badass, and I hope they pick Archangel, aka Warren Worthington, because his story is so freaking tragic in the comic books that he would just be, whoever they pick to play him would just be a beautiful story. He's so good as a character. And basically, in the comic books, Apocalypse grabs Warren Worthington. He shoves this thing called the Death Seed inside of his body and turns him into this techno-organic creature that fires missiles out of his wings. And he's just a badass. And eventually, he goes on to get his life together, and he breaks free of Apocalypse. But he never, ever rebounds. It actually gets so bad in the comic books that eventually he has to have his mind completely wiped of everything ever. And it's a freaking sweet story. So, anywho, that's what I'm most excited for. Next topic. Sorry, I started rambling there. I apologize. But I'm actually, like, I'm sorry. Like, I never thought I was going to get to see an X-Men Apocalypse film. I love that character, and now that it's here, I'm so nervous that it's going to suck. And I have all these high expectations, and I'm worried about it. But that's kind of what I'm most excited for. All right, so we've covered television, we've covered news, or film news. We're moving on to a little bit of comic book news. I think we're going to go directly into, we had kind of a debate plan, but since I kept yakking, I think that it's probably best if we just move into comic book news in general. Anybody disagree with me? Is that cool?
That sounds good.
Go for it.
All right, so we're going to cover three topics right now. We're going to cover what's going on in the DC universe. We're going to cover X-Men, or what's going on in the Marvel universe right now. And I'm yawning. And then we're also going to cover what we're most excited for and why. And then we'll be done. You guys will be off the hook. So first and foremost, we're going to discuss what's going on right now, month of October, DC Universe, all about the Future's End comic books, which are kind of one-shots, very similar to what DC did last year with their heroes, or their villains month that was leading into Forever Evil that took forever. It should have been called Forever is what it should have been, just that. That would have been better. Not Forever Evil, just Forever. Because that took forever to finish. But how do you guys feel about the Future's End stories? Any of them actually good, or is it just filler? What do you guys think? Start with Garrick.
All right. Yeah, so Future's End. Pretty crappy summer event, leading into some pretty crappy one-shots so far. Most of the ones that I've read have been pretty bad. Catwoman's, Flash, what else have I read? A bunch of other ones that were really bad. But I liked Earth 2, Earth 2's a lot. I think Earth 2 is still really carrying a lot of weight. The DC Universe, even though it's kind of flying under the radar. If you haven't been reading it, I still highly recommend it. If you want to borrow it from me, text me or something. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's super good. But Future's End, really disappointing. Batman Eternal, still really bad. I pick up an issue every now and again, and it's still just not good. So Future's End is just kind of hit or miss. Depends on what issue you read. So you're really gonna have to do some exploring to find a good one. But there are a few diamonds under all that poo.
Speaking of good ones, I've read a couple. I've read a couple of them, not a lot, but I'm reading the Future's End ones that tie into the actual books that I read because who the hell cares? But Dan Jurgens wrote Superman Future's End #1, and it was actually surprisingly good. It was about, for those of you, spoiler alert, next 1 minute, just skip through spoilers. In Future's End, Billy Batson is actually Superman. Superman is gone from the Earth. No one knows where he's at. But Billy Batson is Superman. And it's just a good story about why the Earth needs Superman and what Superman means to us as a society of humans and also to other superheroes. So it's a pretty cool story. A couple places gave it a decent review, but I would definitely give it a 9 out of 10. The art's great, good story. So that's my feeling. That's the only real diamond in the rough that I found. What do you think, rest of you, fellas and girl?
Meh.
Fellas and girl.
I guess I'll go next. Unless do you want to go, Jordan,
No,
or do you want?
by all means, go ahead.
Well, Jordan doesn't even read DC. What am I talking about?
So there's he's trying to avoid this at all costs.
So, Future's End. I'm a big DC fan, as everybody in the cast likes to tend to harp on me about because I read more DC than Marvel. I was so angry when I read. I actually didn't even finish Batgirl Future's End because I got so mad I couldn't even finish it. And if there's anybody listening that doesn't know me, I will literally read anything that has a Batman name on it or is related to Batman or Batgirl in any way. And if I can't get through a comic, you don't want to bother wasting your time with it. Batman. Batman Future's End was, it wasn't interesting. I read it and was just not enthralled. I know Ray Fox or something, Scott Snyder wasn't the writer on it. It was a different writer. The art was different. I just didn't really like it. Superman, Wonder Woman, was decent. Future's End was decent. Again, different writer. But yeah, don't bother with Batgirl. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, pretty good. Wonder Woman was going strong. Superman, Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman character was going strong. They kind of were stupid with her this last issue, but they can still bring it back from that. But yeah, Batgirl I love Barbara Gordon, and they took Barbara and they just destroyed her in 2 pages, and I was not happy.
Take it from an
All
expert
Right. Poor Barbs.
of Batgirl and all things
So
related.
So there's what's going on. Future's End is a DC tie-in. They're doing all these tie-ins right now, basically having to do with jumping the entire DC universe 5 years into the future, and you just kind of getting a brief glimpse of maybe what the world might end up turning out to be. Maybe could happen, maybe could not. We don't know.
Let's hope not.
The biggest event coming up in Marvel's universe is called Axis. It's about to start in October. And basically, the premise for you, I'll read it if you guys don't know, is that the Red Skull's taken over the island of Genosha. And he's kind of ready to put the planet into what they call World War Hate, which is Red Skull's always been about propaganda and using hate to fuel his own agenda. So the Avengers and the X-Men team up with each other and a lot of the villains to kind of take on the Red Skull. In the process, a kind of inversion occurs, and then you're going to kind of be left at the mercy of Rick Remender, who's an awesome writer, of figuring out who's actually a villain, who's actually a bad guy. So it's kind of another one of those marketing plots that Marvel's used, similar to Original Sin, where you don't know who's going to end up remaining a status quo good guy, bad guy. But out of these, you have a couple things that are happening. First, Thor will no longer be worthy. He will be, generic Thor number 2. The actual Thor will become a Lady Thor, so she will be Thor. And also,
Lady
Captain America will no longer be Steve Rogers. It will actually be the Falcon. And then there's a couple other changes going on with the Avengers team. Iron Man's going to be known as Superior Iron Man. There's going to be a member of the Inhumans on the team. Angela from Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be an Avenger. So there's other stuff going on. But since Jordan really didn't get a chance to talk in the last one because he doesn't read DC, which probably isn't a bad thing, what do you think about Marvel Axis? Are you excited for it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited for it. I'm excited for this coming week. There's a bunch of stuff coming out that I want to read, but I'm hoping Axis will be a little bit better. Original Sin kind of fell flat for everybody. I guess it had a lot of impact on the overall universe, and some pretty cool stuff happened at the very end. But that event as a whole was kind of just disappointing. Axis, just the premise of it sounds more interesting. Sounds like there'll be a lot more action, a lot more stuff going on. So I'll 100% be reading it all the way through.
All right, cool. I know Rachel kind of jumped into the Marvel Universe feet first a little bit this past year with Original Sin, so she's starting to get a little bit more versed in the universe. Are you excited for it at all? Are you going to be picking it up?
I am going to be picking it up. I, especially as of late, Marvel has just been doing so much better than DC. I'm still reading Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and Storm, and still completely on board with those. I did like Original Sin, so yeah, I'll definitely pick it up.
All right, cool. Garrett, what are you thinking?
What am I thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking there's a lot of gimmicky stuff going on, and people are going to pick it up because it's gimmicky, and it might be interesting, it might not be. So I mean, we'll see. I guess
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick up the first few issues of all these and see where they go. If they're just basically cat grabs or whatever. Girl Thor, read this.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's got to have a good story to go along with the eye-catching and super shocking quote unquote things that are happening. So I guess it's just all up in the air, and I'm optimistic for it. I'm always optimistic that every comic book that I read will be great, and I'll have no complaints. But it's usually doesn't go that route with these weird gimmicky things. So we'll see.
So that's our opinion on Axis. The last thing that we're gonna discuss comic book wise, before we get into what we recommend coming up, is the Superman Doomed event. There's some other stuff going on. There's the Death of Wolverine, which is really popular, but that's not finished yet, and it's still kind of going on. They're going to be taking a break from it, so we'll kind of discuss it next week. But I figured I'd kind of give you guys a quick run-through of the Superman Doomed event. So I'm a huge Superman fan, and this has been a big crossover arc for Superman. And anybody who reads Superman pretty consistently knows who the character of Doomsday is. They know who the character of Brainiac is, and the general rundown of the story is that Superman becomes Doomsday by ingesting some spores of his that he lets out when Superman defeats him. And from there, you kind of learn a whole big, intricate story arc has taken place. Brainiac has been kind of the mastermind behind it, and that's all the information I'll give you about the story. Other than it puts the entire Marvel or the entire DC universe in jeopardy, and it just ended. And there's some pretty big implications from the end of it, which is weird considering every series seems to think that at the end of their series, they've produced this game-changing ending point. Like Forever Evil was the most game-changing thing at that point. But Superman, when it ended, it actually did do something pretty interesting by the very last page of the story shows Brainiac, spoiler alert, this is some spoilers, if you don't want to know, plug your ears, but Brainiac viewing the entire multiverse for DC Universe, and there is tons and tons of them. There is the Bruce Timm animated universe. There's the Vampire Batman of Earth 8 or 9. I don't remember which one it is. There's the pre-New 52. There's the Crisis universe. There's the pre-Identity Crisis universe. There's tons and tons of different universes that he sees in there, and it implies that there's some kind of multiverse forming again, and it goes on kind of point of what's going on with the Jeff Johns multiversity thing that's also taking place in DC right now. But if you're a big fan of paradoxes and alternate universes and junk like that, check it out. It has some semi decent implications, but that's the last thing. I know most of the people in the cast didn't really read this, so I kind of figured I'd cover it all in one quick shot. But check it out. It has semi-decent drawing, but I'm pretty excited for all these series that were wrapped up in it, like Superman, Wonder Woman, Action Comics, a couple other books, Red Lanterns, a couple other books to be back in the actual, their own story arc and not have to be wrapped up in this anymore. But it was pretty neat. It'll come out in trade paperback. Check it out if you're into Doomsday, if you're into Brainiac, you're into Superman punching shit as a giant monster in outer space. It's pretty cool. All right, so we've reached the end of regulation. So that being said, we're going into overtime, ladies and gentlemen. You requested it. Score's tied 0-0. So we're going into overtime. We're going to discuss for you guys which comics are coming out that we think you guys should be picking up, or which ones that have came out recently that are pretty good that you guys should be purchasing. Spend your money on the things that we tell you to, because we're smart and we look good. We're attractive and smart people, so we know these things. Let's start with Rachel Freeman.
This comic book is now, they just released issue 4. I highly recommend this comic book. I do have to give credit to Chris Bird, who isn't on the cast tonight, who recommended this comic to me. This comic is called The Wicked and the Divine. It is amazing. And yeah, it's about gods and humanity, and there's a lot going on in the comic right now. And again, it's only on issue 4, so you have plenty of time to go out and get it and catch up. And it's amazing.
Cool. Anything else you're reading, Rachel? You want us to read? I know you've been really excited about that book.
Yeah, I excited about that one. I was reading Veil. Veil was very good. They haven't released a new issue in a little over a month, so I don't really know what's going on with that. I actually do need to look into that. But if they do re-release new issues, Veil is something you should look into.
Cool. Veil. And The Wicked and Divine. Wicked and Divine is an Image comic. What is Veil? Is Veil also Image?
I don't believe they're Image. Actually, no. I think they are Image.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Jordan Seth Roach, what are you feeling in the streets today? What are the kids reading?
To be honest, I haven't read as much Marvel and DC as I usually do. I've read a little bit of Image stuff. I think I've said this the past 3 or 4 times that I've been on the cast, but I'll keep saying it until you read it because it's that good. You'll go and read Sex Criminals. You won't see the cover and think, oh, a book about sex criminals. I don't think I want to do that. You'll read it because it's fantastic. It's written by Matt Fraction, the same guy that did that amazing run on Hawkeye, so you'll do that. I'm really excited also about 2 Marvel books that are coming up. One is the relaunch of The Winter Soldier. So if you read all the way through Original Sin, and I won't spoil it if you didn't, some pretty interesting stuff happens around the end pertaining Nick Fury and Bucky Barnes, and this series is relaunching to kind of continue that story on. So I'm definitely going to pick that up, and hopefully they'll do something with a character that I don't honestly particularly care about that much, but I'm interested to see what happens in his story. And then the second is the relaunch of Thor as well. And I know a lot of people see Lady Thor as a gimmick, and she might be. But I'm also really interested to see what Nick Fury said to Thor that made him immediately unworthy to have his hammer anymore. I want to see...
Probably said, use a bitch.
Hey. Don't talk about him like that.
If we're going to have long hair like that, we're going to get a woman in here. That's probably what he said.
Probably.
Get a haircut or get out.
I also want to see who this chick is. They've made it pretty well known that the girl that becomes Thor is somebody that everybody's familiar with. So I want to know who she is, why she's worthy, why like she's the one that gets the hammer, and just see where it goes in general. So I'll definitely be picking it up at least for the first few issues. If it sucks, then I'll stop. But I'm gonna give it a chance.
Do you think it'll be Valkyrie because she already is basically Lady Thor?
No,
I don't
they
think
said
so.
that this person is not a character that already exists in the Marvel universe. She is completely new, so it's not going to be like, ta-da, it's Angela. It's going to be a new person. So I think that they're trying to generate more strong lead roles that are female in the Marvel universe. They've gotten a lot of positive reception around Black Widow in the movies and Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel and a couple other books with strong female-centered roles have been selling pretty well. So I think that this is just the next logical move for them, is to make a character that can really just mess shit up.
Yeah.
Who was next? Garrick? Were you next?
Mm.
Yeah, go for it.
Yep. Let's see. What should you read? Probably the same stuff that I've been telling you for like a year. Miles Morales, Ultimate Spider-Man. Super awesome. I think currently it's better than Amazing Spider-Man. And Amazing Spider-Man's really good. So that just tells you how good that book is. Also, Injustice Year 2 just wrapped up, and Year 3 will be coming out next week. So pick that up. I mean, it's been underrated, I think. People haven't been giving it a shot. Yeah, so, I mean, pick that up for sure. If you like the game, you'll like the comic even more. I guarantee it. So, yeah, I'm going to throw those two books out. Also, Deadly Class just came back after the first arc ended, after the short hiatus. It's back in full swing. Also, another great book. So, yeah, those are my 3 recommendations for this week. And they'll probably be different next week. But, yeah.
The cool thing about this so far that I've seen is that somebody has picked an Image book. I mean, we talked a lot about Marvel and DC today, but, all of us have picked an Image book so far. Jordan has picked Sex Criminals. Rachel has picked The Wicked and the Divine. Garrick's picked Deadly Class. So just not just to say that Marvel or DC are the only people putting out quality books. Image is, winning awards hands down, left and right. They write some awesome stuff. So a lot of times we don't spend as much time on them as we should. I know even IDW, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is hands down one of the best books that is on the shelf right now. Again, if you disagree, you're wrong. I have a person who I can introduce you to named Mr. Brandon Barber that will probably give you a run for your money on some comic book turtle knowledge. The books that I'm picking that are coming up pretty soon, I'm picking Axis, because I think it's going to be cool. I love Rick Remender as a writer. He's one of my favorite people out there right now. He's also super mean to people online, which is pretty cool. I like that about him. But I'm really excited. I love Red Skull centered stories, and ever since Uncanny Avengers finished its first arc, and you saw Red Skull in the Onslaught armor because he has Xavier's brain in his body right now, I've been really super excited to see where in the hell that's going. Onslaught is one of the absolute weirdest characters that came out of like mid-90s X-Men books, but he's okay. He's in a video game too, check it out. But I'm excited to see where that goes. I definitely want to find out what's going on with that. And then I'm also pretty excited for The Amazing Spider-Man. Just finished its first arc again. And that finished with, there was Black Cat and Electro, and they've introduced a new, almost like a new Spider-Man character, but you find out that Spider-Man wasn't the only person bitten by the spider on the day that he became Spider-Man. A girl was also bit, and her name is Silk. Her and Spider-Man like kind of are weirdly in some kind of romantic relationship right now, and everything in that book is building up to an event that's about to take place called Spider-Verse that we haven't really talked about, but we will be talking about next time. And basically that is where Spider-Man fights one of his dumbest but most powerful enemies in a character named Moreland. So it's going to be pretty cool to see how that goes. Dan Slott's writing it, so we'll see how it turns out. But I really like the Dan Slott Superior Spider-Man run, the end of Amazing Spider-Man, and these first couple issues of Amazing Spider-Man. So I'm pretty excited. I think it's breathed some new life into that series. And I was trying to think. I felt like there was one other book that I was excited for. I would have to look. You know what? I'm gonna call this one a mulligan. Guardians 3000 is coming out soon. Guardians 3000. It's Guardians of the Galaxy. Original team is coming back. For those of you who don't know, Rocket Raccoon, Star-Lord, Groot, Gamora, Drax, those are not the original Guardians of the Galaxy. They are definitely the most popular version, but before that, there was a Guardians of the Galaxy that came out. I won't talk about it right now because it's not out yet, but a new book is coming out. It's being relaunched. It's going to be written by Dan Abnett, who is the writer behind the super popular relaunch of Guardians of the Galaxy from 2008 to 2012 or 2010. Sorry, 2010 when that book came out. So I'm excited for that too. Those are the books I'm excited for. You should go buy all of the ones that we just said, because if you don't, you're probably doing comic books wrong. Just want to put that out there. I think that's safe to say. So that brings us to the end of our show for the day. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. For those of you who did, if you didn't, no big deal, because this is still going to be on YouTube and you can still listen to it later. And if you don't listen to it on YouTube, we don't like you. You're not a nice person, okay? And you'll never know that we said that because you didn't watch the video, unless somebody types the message to you. I don't know how the internet works, but all that stuff is, I'm sure somebody out there does. It's underground tubes. So thanks for listening to us this week. We'll be back next week with all the new crap that comes out. I'm sure we'll have tons of new recommendations. Every Wednesday we pick up comics. We try to read all of them by Sundays. I think we're switching our cast nights to Sundays just because it's a little easier for everybody to deal with. If we have to switch it up on you guys, we'll let you know on the Facebook page or on Twitch or Twitter or any of the other social media things that we're on. So we appreciate it. Thank you guys, and support your local comic book store.